Hey everybody, this is Country Geckos. Today I'm going to be talking about Leachianus geckos. So this will be the first video in a line of videos where I'll be talking about whether or not certain species of reptiles make good pets, and today, as you can see, I'll be starting off with the Leachianus and whether or not they make good pets. So I'll give you a closer view of these lychee geckos right here. This is a Pine Island Leachianus gecko. They come from the islands of New Caledonia, and there's many islands surrounding the main island of New Caledonia, and each island has its own locale of Leachianus. So obviously, as this is a Pine Island locale, it comes from the Pine Island. There's probably around 20 different locales, and there's a lot of mixed breeding between different locales, and they create really beautiful animals. As you can see here, the Pine Island's got really pretty pink splotches, pink and white splotches, and kind of an olive green background with some really awesome dark brown, almost like tiger stripes. And as you can see, they have that really pretty yellow ring around their eye. They're just really beautiful animals. And as you can see right here, they have really floppy skin, and that's for when in the wild they have really violent breeding processes, and they oftentimes use their teeth to hold on to their mate. So by having these like extra jowl skins, flaps, this getting bit won't really do a lot of damage to the animal itself. So as you can see, he doesn't really mind me doing that because that's just a bunch of extra baggy skin. So that's just kind of like almost like body armor. And that's something else that they can do is they chirp oftentimes. They're very vocal animals. I hear them at night barking and chirping and making all kinds of weird noises. So it's kind of funny. So I'll start off talking about the availability and price of Leachianus geckos. As these guys are in super high demand, but in really low supply, it's basic, just kind of basic economics. You know, if there's a low supply and a high demand, the price is going to go up. So you can, on a good day, you can pick up a juvenile unsexed Leachianus for around $400 to $450, and that'd be a pretty decent deal. You're not going to find a quality Leachianus much lower than that, at least from when I was shopping for my Leachianus. I was having a really hard time finding one under $600 as a juvenile unsexed. And if you buy them as an adult, obviously they're going to be, you're going to know the gender of them. And males are more expensive because for some reason the males are harder to come by. So a male is going to be up into the thousands, and a female, depending on her weight and her healthiness and her ability to breed, will be up into the thousands as well. So these are not cheap animals, but they can be pretty rewarding pets, and I'll kind of get on to their pet aspects in this next clip. So when talking about the petness of an animal, the first thing you automatically go to is, are they handleable? Like, are they nice to hold? From what you're seeing right here, you would think, wow, Leachianus must be really fun to hold and really calm all the time and not aggressive. Well, you'd be really wrong, at least from my experience. This keep in mind, this is only from one sample size, because I only own one Leachianus. I can't really afford to because in the previous clip how expensive they are. But my Leachianus here, Titan, is unbelievably cage aggressive. I'll try to get some clips of him in his terrarium, which I'm working on right now. I've been doing some remodeling in his cage, but he is incredibly cage aggressive. I'll walk into my room and he'll start snapping at the glass and hissing and spitting and barking, all kinds of aggressive mannerisms. And they have super strong jaws, like really strong jaws. And I've gotten bit twice. One of them was pretty bad, ripped off a good bit of my skin. They have very fast reflexes, much faster than our reflexes. So you have to be really careful. I've read some sources where their Leachianus, it's kind of like maybe like a bearded dragon or a hamster or something. That's like you should pick it up and no issue, and they're just like this. But some, including mine, are incredibly mean. But that, for my Leachianus, only withstands within his cage. As soon as I lift him above the lip of the terrarium or outside the doors, the hissing ceases and totally nice. It's kind of strange, but that's something you've got to keep in mind. You kind of playing with fire when you buy one because you really don't know unless you're purchasing an adult and your breeder's not lying to you and saying that he is peaceful when he's not. you're not really going to know if your animal is going to be nice or not. I think I've read that the larger locales, I think this is right, larger locales like the Grand Terror can be more aggressive, and obviously they're bigger, so the bite's going to be better, or worse, excuse me. And these Pine Islands are also a bigger locale, so their bite's worse and they can be a little more aggressive. And plus he's male, so he's pretty territorial. You know, they just don't want you messing around in their home, which I guess is pretty understandable. Also, I thought I'd quickly mention the texture of their skin is actually kind of cool to hold. So if you do get a Lychee that's nice enough to hold, their floppy skin and just kind of the weird, kind of like rough, velvety texture. So soft yet kind of rough at the same time, which is kind of a weird contrast. It's really cool to feel in the hand, and they're really weighty animals, so it's kind of fun to have them walk around and jump around on you. You can see the pads on their feet. If they're locked onto something, they're not going to let off, I'll tell you that much. Especially a piece of, like a t-shirt. If they want to be on there, you're not getting them off. You'd have to really pull on them, and you don't really want to do that. And they can lose their tails, but I'm pretty sure it's very rare. Obviously, he hasn't lost his tail, and as it is prehensile. As you can see, he's wrapping it around it kind of like a monkey would. So that's kind of cool too. So next I'll talk about the feeding of the Leachianus. From my experience, Titan is an excellent eater, which can be good or bad because they'll drain your resources pretty quickly. They do eat Rapashi or Pangea crescent gecko food diet. My animal's favorite is banana and apricot. They all seem to like it really well, and Titan especially. You fill up one of those regulation crescent gecko cups, you know I'm talking, the little deli cups, halfway, and it's almost totally gone the next day. And they grow at pretty rapid pace, so feeding them is one of their advantages. Seem to be pretty good eaters. We'll eat a variety of flavors of the Pangea, but you will come to realize that there will be a certain flavor they'll prefer. You just have to kind of work your way to find that. But they will, like I said, if you maybe have like a gargoyle gecko and a crescent gecko and a Lychee gecko like I do, they'll drain you out of your Pangea pretty quickly because you have to make quite a bit for them because they eat like a lot. Some Leachianus will eat crickets. It's kind of a clumsy eat. I should mention, at least with my Leachianus, he just kind of throws his head at the cricket and hopes that it lands in his mouth, and sometimes it does. He does like to eat crickets. I like to vary his diet with a little bit more protein, but I have read that some Leachianus are just not interested in it. Alright, so finally I'll talk about the housing of Leachianus. Basically, you're kind of going to be setting them up in a tank very similar to a crescent gecko, but you just need to scale up because obviously they're 4 to 5 times bigger, or I'd say more than 4 to 5 times bigger. But as you can see behind me, I'll give you a closer look in a moment, but it's 18 by 18 by 24, and that's not necessarily on the small end, but you could always go a little bit bigger, go the extra mile, because these animals will cover some ground in the night. You'll hear them smacking against the glass at night, and like I said, barking, and they get on the move at night, as they are nocturnal, which can be kind of not the best thing for someone who's looking for a good pet, because they're not active until you spray them at night around like 9 o'clock when you get home. So not the best daytime pet, but you can get them out. They're just not going to be out about in their terrarium. You can house them in a very intricate setup. I think with an animal so expensive, you should just go ahead and make them a nice terrarium. It's kind of like a trophy animal, I guess, in a way. But you can just as well, with just as many health benefits, house them in a Tupperware tub. Just like a really big tub, put some cork bark in there, paper towel bedding. They require humidity, so like a twice daily sprayings. They are pretty susceptible, they can be susceptible, I should say, to fungal infections just because of all the surface area on their skin. I think is a contributing factor, and if the soil within their terrarium is too moist, that's something that can happen. But you want to allow a pretty big drying period, so in the morning and then at night, you should be good to go. Alright, so I'm going to give you a quick run through of this terrarium right here. This is a pretty, all out there, pretty expensive setup for a Lychee. Like I said, this isn't totally necessary. But things that you really need to have that are crucial for a Leachianus terrarium are cork tubes and cork flats. They live in these in the wild, and it's very important not necessarily they live in cork flats in the wild, but they live in hollowed out trees, and this is the best way to imitate a hollowed out tree is with a cork tube. As you can see, I got a big one in the back there. That's very important additive to a Leachianus terrarium. Also, you need to have a humidity substrate, one that can dry out quickly but can also hold a little bit of humidity. In here, I just have some cocoa bark, or eco earth, excuse me, mixed with some repti bark. Just a substrate that can drain and as well hold humidity for the time that's needed. And if you do decide to go the naturalistic route, you need to put in plants that are hardy, like these big Sansevieria. These pink plants right here are not the best choice for Leachianus, but they've kind of established themselves in the tank, and he hasn't torn them up totally yet. And I've got another Sansevieria in the background there. I wanted to talk about the temperature of the Leachianus real quick. These are very similar to gargoyle and crescent geckos, as in they require a pretty room temperature, enclosure temperature. So 70 to 75. You can drop down to about 65 at night, but wouldn't go much lower, and you definitely cannot go much hotter because that can really mess them up because they aren't used to that type of temperature. So that is definitely a pro to these Leachianus, unless your house is really cold, which hopefully it's not. Your Leachianus will be totally fine without any supplemental heating. They're nocturnal, so they don't need UVB light or like anything like a bearded dragon would need. So the only reason I have a light on this terrarium right here is just for the plants, and it doesn't have UV. It's just for the plants so they know where to grow. In summary, Leachianus overall won't be your best beginner pet due to the cost, the potential aggressiveness, like especially if maybe your child wants a reptile pet. I would not go with Leachianus just because you can't be sure if they're going to be cage aggressive, and I totally understand people that own Leachianus, and the fact that they're so angry acting in the terrarium deters the owner from ever getting them out. That is understandable. They can be aggressive like mine is. I have to put on a winter glove and grab my Leachianus to get him out, so I don't get to hold him very often. The price is also something to consider, but they are beautiful animals, kind of an exotic, unique, rare species of animal. Easy housing requirements, so overall they're pretty decent pets. It's just not a great beginner pet, and there's several drawbacks. Alright guys, that's going to do it for today's video. I thank you guys so much for watching. I know it's been a really long time since I've last uploaded. I was just getting finished up with school, and now I'm free for the summer just about, and should have more time for uploads. There should be some cool videos coming up. Want to encourage y'all to subscribe and hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, and if you're feeling it, leave a comment. As always, this is Country Echoes. I'll see you in the next one.